Hello, staff and faculty supervisors. Welcome to the Student Employment Information Session webinar. This webinar is for staff and faculty who hire students across campus and want to learn more about the student hiring process. My name is Alyssa Laskowski. I am the Student Employment Coordinator in the Career and Professional Success Office, and I will be walking and talking you all through the student employment hiring process. The CAPS office also partners with Butler's HR office to process and hire student employees, and both offices are available to help when needed. To get started, I will go over the Employing Students website thoroughly and discuss how to advertise and post any of your open positions. Next, I will tackle the detailed hiring process and paperwork process for any new hire students. And lastly, I will go over students' pay and how you as a supervisor will be responsible for approving your student employees' timesheets, and additionally how to submit form stack forms for any payroll or supervisor changes you wish to make for your student hires. So let's start with the number one resource staff and faculty supervisors should be using when it comes to hiring students, which is our website. Our website should be the very first destination for staff and faculty who want to hire students. This page is full of helpful information, including detailed steps to hire students, helpful guides and facts and questions, up-to-date paperwork and forms, and much more. So to access our website, you'll just need to simply go to butler.edu/career and scroll down to view the menu on the right side and click on Hiring Student Employees for Campus Jobs. Additionally, when it comes to posting or advertising any of your positions, we highly encourage supervisors to utilize Handshake, which is Butler's job board. We regularly hear from students who are actively seeking on-campus employments, and they often ask why more on-campus positions are not posted on Handshake, and have generally expressed a great interest in having a centralized location to house any existing on-campus jobs. Additionally, when posting a job in Handshake, you can specify an end date for applications. You can actually narrow your search down if you're looking for students with specific majors. And you can also have student applications emailed to you directly. So it's a really great tool and resource to use. If you'd like to post a position in Handshake or learn more about how to use it, you're always welcome to contact the CAPS office and we can actually help post the position for you. When it comes to advertising the position, a lot of supervisors use a lot of different tactics, so utilizing emails or newsletters, even the department website. So again, you're welcome to come up with creative ways to advertise any of your open positions. Once you've identified the student or students you'd like to hire, there are important next steps that need to be completed. So again, when hiring students, it's important to distinguish the type of student you are hiring. So we split them into two categories called new hire and existing hire. So new hires are students who've never worked on campus before and require additional steps to be officially hired, which includes completing paperwork and submitting ID documents and having a supervisor submit and enter their e-hire. Existing hires are a little bit easier in that these students have already worked on campus before, so they do not need to turn in any paperwork or ID documents. The supervisor only needs to submit their e-hire form. When it comes to the new hire students, however, again, all of the paperwork and the IDs that are required for them must be submitted to the CAPS office or the HR office for review. So there is a specific way to find out if the student or students you are hiring are either new hire students or existing hire students. Of course, you can always ask the student if they've worked on campus before or not, but sometimes that information isn't super reliable. A guaranteed way to know is to use eHire as shown here. So when filling out the student's information, you will notice a section that's labeled I-9 needed, which stands for the paperwork. Y means yes, the student needs to turn in new paperwork and is a new hire student. And N means no, the student does not need to turn in paperwork and they are an existing hire student. So it is important for supervisors to know what the new hire paperwork includes, where to access these forms, and how to fill out each form correctly. I will note that the paperwork, especially the federal tax forms and the state tax forms, as well as the I-9, are usually updated by the government every 1 to 2 years. Um, so it is important to make sure that you're using the correct and up-to-date paperwork, which is always updated first on our website. So again, you can find the new hire paperwork packet on the website that I'd mentioned earlier in the webinar today. And in order to complete the I-9, students must present unexpired forms of ID, and we are required by law to color copy these IDs front and back. The IDs normally are passports, a photo ID, which might be a license or like a Butler ID, social security card, or a birth certificate. And we'll kind of get into these ID documents details shortly. But again, supervisors are responsible for making sure that the student fills out their portion of the paperwork, and supervisors themselves are responsible for filling out page 2 of that I-9 document. If you ever need assistance when it comes to color copying the the IDs that are required, our CAP staff can actually make those copies for you. So I quickly wanted to utilize this guide, which again is found on our website for supervisors about how to fill out the I-9. Again, as I noted before, supervisors are required to complete this page for all of their student hires when it comes to their new hire students, and this guide is going to show you how to fill it out correctly. So you'll start at the top by filling out the student's name and their citizenship, and then use the presented IDs that the student provides. You will either fill in list A or both list B and C. A student must provide either one ID from list A, which is oftentimes a passport, or 2 items to fill in both list B and C. The I-9 itself comes with a helpful instructional page that clearly outlines what IDs go in which list and which IDs are acceptable. So then towards the bottom of the I-9 form, you will fill out the student's start date and then sign your name and your information. This slide helps to clarify the breakdown of each list on the I-9. So list A refers to passports only. So this covers both a photo ID document as well as an employment authorization ID. So list A will always be some sort of passport. List B and C. So B always refers to an identity document. So that might be a student's driver's license, a state ID, or a Butler ID would be acceptable. And list C always refers to an employment authorization document, which could either be a social security card or a birth certificate. So again, it's very important that all ID documents that a student will submit to you, they must be unexpired originals. No copies or photocopies of the documents will be accepted. By law, they must be the original documentation. If students do not have any of their IDs in the state, so if they are out of state students, their parents or guardians must mail the secured documents through FedEx or UPS US mail. So this guide is available again on our website, so please refer back to it when needed. But this would be an example of a supervisor who filled out the I-9 form for one of their students utilizing a passport. So again, you'll notice at the top that the student's name and citizenship is filled in. List A is correctly filled in using the information provided on the passport. And then below, you will notice that the supervisor had listed the start date as well as the supervisor's information. And that's it. So again, once the student and the supervisors have both completed their respective portions of the new hire paperwork, it must be brought to the CAPS office or the HR office for review. Something I do want to note that is very important, a student cannot start working until the paperwork is correctly completed, and this includes having their IDs submitted and color copied and is turned into either office. We've had many situations in the past where a student has begun working on campus for weeks or months, but has yet to get paid. And the reason is because we have no paperwork completed or submitted for them, which means we have no record of their employment. This causes many issues for our payroll office and could cause legal issues for the university as a whole. So we highly recommend making sure everything is processed in order first before allowing your student employee to start working. If at any point in the time your students need help completing the paperwork or again, you as an officer or supervisor need help making the copies of their ID documents, they can come to the CAPS office directly for help. We do ask that supervisors at least complete their portion of the I-9 that I just discussed before sending the student to the CAPS office, because that can just make the process a little bit smoother and faster. I do want to go over one form in particular, which is called our grant-funded student employee form. So this form is specifically for students being paid through an internal or external grant. And this grant-funded student employee form, again, is available on our website to download and complete. So supervisors will need to fill out the grant-funded student employee form and then must mail or drop off the form to Bridget Strong in the Office of Sponsored Programs. So once the form then makes its way around campus, there are required signatures that offices across campus need to sign. Once all those signatures are collected, HR will then process that grant-funded student employee form and enter the information into eHire for that particular supervisor. The grant-funded student employee forms are always processed by the Human Resources Office. So if you have any questions about maybe the status of the form or where they are in processing it, you do want to make sure that you reach out directly to the HR office, or you can contact Sue Gray directly. Now we'll go over briefly the e-hire process, which all staff and faculty are required to complete for their student hires, regardless if that student is a new hire or an existing hire. Completing the e-hire connects your student employee to Butler's payroll system and your department's budget, so it is a really important step. Again, as noted here, supervisors must enter their students into e-hire in order to ensure a student receives payment. So the first step is just logging into your mybutler.edu, and under the Employees Tool tab, you will click the PeopleSoft HR box, and then it'll open up to a new menu where you will select Classic Home. Again, you'll find the menu on the left-hand side. You'll navigate to Manager Self-Service, Job and Personal Information, eHire, and that will take you directly to the eHire form. It is important to note that if you do not have access to eHire or any of these options, all you would need to do is submit a ticket to the IT help desk to request access to eHire. So this is the eHire page. So once you land here under the select template, you'll want to click on that magnifying glass. A new menu will appear. You'll want to select student hourly because all students are paid at an hourly pay rate. And then you want to click create transaction. This is a page that you've seen before, so this is the eHire page as well. So you will enter the student ID number of the student you want to hire. You will double check to see if that I-9 is needed or not. And then you will enter the effective date. And this essentially is the student's start date. So it's important that you try and enter that date as closely to the start date, the actual start date of the student. This next and final page is probably, again, one of the most important pages. So this is where you will institute all of the information regarding the students that you're hiring. And that includes their position number, your individual supervisor ID, the hourly pay rate that you're paying the students at, and the combination code, which essentially is your office budget. Once all this information is filled out, you will click Save and Submit. And I will go over kind of each of these sections in a little bit more detail. So the first one you'll start with is the position number. So when you're looking up the position number, it'll oftentimes have the job title or a brief description of what the position actually is, so that you know you're selecting the right position for your student hires. So the way to find the position number is clicking on the magnifying glass to search, and a new menu will appear. The easiest way to find the position number is to actually adjust the search filters and select Search by Department in that drop-down menu box. This will help generate a list of all the positions that are connected to that 5-digit department code. So that's just a little bit easier of a way to kind of narrow down to know the positions that are specifically tied to your department. You'll review those positions and again find the most appropriate one and click on that correct position. Your supervisor ID, again, you do not have to know your supervisor ID off the top of your head. Simply click on the magnifying glass to search. And you can also modify the search settings by typing in your last name or your first name, and the supervisor name will appear. And you will simply click that as well. The hourly pay rate, so again, you just simply enter the student's pay rate, and just to note, the minimum wage in the state of Indiana is $7.25 per hour. And lastly, the combination code. So again, this is the budget being used to pay your student employees. So just as you've done before, you would simply click on the magnifying glass. Again, an easiest way to search for a combination code is searching using the filters for your department, entering your 5-digit department code, and beginning the search through that option. And then again, the combination code that's specifically tied to your department will appear, and you will select that. Once that eHire page is completely filled out, you will hit save and submit, and it will go to HR for processing. So an important responsibility of supervisors is letting students obviously know what their hourly pay rate is, but making sure that students are being paid hourly. So we do not accept stipends. So it is important if you do have, for example, any students that are being paid out of a grant or anything like that, if you have a total sum that you're needing to divide up between your student hires, it's important that you break down that number and make sure that you're listing it as an hourly pay. Again, we cannot process or utilize stipends to pay student employees. We do get a lot of questions from students as well as supervisors who are not sure about when paychecks do come out. So we do have a bi-weekly payroll schedule that is available. Again, you can find this schedule not only on the website I had mentioned earlier, but also the payroll department is constantly updating the schedule on their own departmental website, which you can download and view at any time. If you have any students who are interested in direct deposit, they must fill out the direct deposit form, which again can be viewed and downloaded on our website. Bring a voided check and actually take that directly to the payroll office so they can process that for them. Additionally, most students, I would say, opt to just have the paper paycheck, and student paychecks are available for pickup every other Friday, so it's bi-weekly, in the student accounts office, which is located in Jordan Hall. For approving students' hours, an important responsibility of all the supervisors is approving student employees' timesheets so that they can receive pay. So some supervisors choose to enter their students' hours for them, while others let their students do it themselves. So either way you choose, a student's work hours must be entered and must be submitted in order for a paycheck to be distributed. So in order to approve student hours, I've included this slide that kind of walks you through that process. So again, you're just logging into your mybutler.edu, going through kind of these steps here, classic home to your manager self-service box, approving time and exceptions. This will allow you to see all the reported time for all of your students. You select the students that you're looking at and hit approve, and that's it, and you will be done. Again, this guide is also available on our website to view at any point in time. HR also uses form stack forms that supervisors must utilize and complete if you want to make any changes regarding your student hires. So for example, if you want to change a student's hourly pay rate or change the supervisor the student directly reports to, you must fill out and submit this form, which again can be found on our website. So just some final tips and thoughts before closing out the webinar today. Always feel free to reach out and ask for help if you're unsure. We encourage, again, staff and faculty to consult the CAPS website first for the most up-to-date information, helpful guides, and paperwork and other form documents. If possible, when it comes to the paperwork, hand delivering to the CAPS office is really helpful. Of course, we do accept documents sent to us through campus mail. So that sometimes can delay the process. So if you're looking for something to get done quickly, hand delivering it to the office, both the CAPS office or HR office, can help speed up that process. As a reminder, a new hire student cannot start working until their paperwork and their correctly completed the paperwork is correctly completed, and again, that includes making sure their IDs are correct and color copied, and all of that is turned in. All the paperwork, e-hire submissions, as well as the form stack forms are processed solely by the HR office. So please make sure to contact the HR office for any status updates that you may need. We've gotten this question a lot. So when it comes to any corrections on paperwork, we prefer that students and supervisors do not use whiteout. Simply all you need to do is just draw a line through the air, make that correction, and then put your name of your initials next to the changes that you make. I want to thank you all again for joining me for the webinar. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, the CAPS office or the HR office. Thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful day.